It's noon here in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and Bethesda, Maryland, where Zach is. And this is news that you can use from YAA. May I say before we start today, I saw something on Twitter, and it was George Conway speaking to the good folks at CNN, and over his head was where he was speaking from, which happened to be Ventnor City, New Jersey. So there's two live broadcasts going out from this great beach town today. I'd like to
How
believe ours is more
fantastic.
important.
Ours is certainly more important, Dad, because we have the latest and greatest data from BlackBook, Dad. Let's jump right into it. What the heck did we see this week?
Well, we've seen a continuation of what we've seen for the last 4, 5, 6 weeks, where we have seen the pace of depreciation continue to pick up week over week. In just the past 2 weeks alone, the overall market has dropped, wholesale value wise, at the auctions has dropped close to 2% over just the past 2 weeks. And a few weeks ago, the declines were 20 hundredths of a point, or three hundredths of a point. But now we're getting to where the decreases week over week are close to a point, and that, when you start adding it up, that adds up to quite a bit of money.
Yes, it does indeed. And also, it's being corroborated by we're starting to hear more and more stories of used cars on the retail side being more negotiable. So the drum that we will continue to beat here is that every week that we see this trend continue, it simply means there are more opportunities to negotiate for used car purchases. And Dad, this is also because interest rates have increased, and so the cost to carry that inventory has also gone up. And we have not, I know I titled today the Repo-calypse, the Repo-apocalypse has started. We actually haven't seen a huge influx in supply quite yet. So this is being spurred primarily by a lack of consumer demand, which, if you remember yesterday, Dad, we talked about market days supply of inventory.
Mm-hmm.
What did we talk about there? We talked about how 3 years ago, or 4 years ago now in 2018, Toyota had 450,000 vehicles for sale and a 60-day supply, and now they only have 100,000 vehicles for sale and a 20-day supply. The reason that their days supply hasn't gone down proportionally to the amount of inventory is not because there's not enough cars out there. That's part of it. It's because there's less consumer demand to buy cars. We are seeing the weakening of consumer demand start on the used car side to drive prices down.
Yes, there's definitely a softening in the used car market of consumer demand because, well, prices have been so outrageously high that consumers have finally decided to back off. And we talk about these decreases in prices, and I think the overall decrease has been somewhere around 3.5 or 3.75% over the last 3 or 4 weeks, which is a fairly significant decline in the wholesale values. And I've seen comments on our YouTube channel where people said, "Yeah, but all the dealers that own the cars for too much, well, they're not going to lower the price." Well, it doesn't quite work like that. And the perfect example I will give you is when a customer would come in and we would appraise their car, and let's say we said the car was worth $15,000, and they said, "Well, it's got to be worth more than that because, well, I owe 18,500." I used to look at them and go, "Okay, if you only owed 5,000, would it just be worth 5,000?" One has nothing to do with the other. There's a value to the vehicle. What you owe has nothing to do with that value. And the same holds true for a dealer that has used cars that he paid too much for. He can't sell it for a higher price simply because he paid too much for it. If he's asking $50,000 for something that the market says people are only willing to pay $45,000 for, just because he owns it for 50 doesn't mean it's worth 50.
Yep, he or she could be holding on to a car for a long time, or they may end up just turning around, taking a discount and selling it to a retail customer because they can't afford to just watch that anchor, that, as you like to call it, that boat anchor sink.
Yes.
Now, Dad, let's look at it broken down by the types of vehicles here, and then I've got some insider information I'm going to share as well, Pops. We've got all vehicles decreasing week over week in terms of their wholesale values. Compact cars down over a point, which is a huge decline for that class of vehicle. Near luxury cars down 1.37%, luxury cars down 1.25 points, prestige luxury cars down more than 1.3% as well. Across the entire car segment, Dad, 0.92%, so nearly a 1% decline week over week in wholesale values, which is a significant amount, amounts that we haven't seen since like the beginning of the pandemic, to be clear.
Yes. No, this is what I've termed as the start of the correction. And people get angry because they go, well, yeah, but the prices aren't going to be anywhere near what they had been, what they should have been historically. And that very well might be the case. But the fact that they're going down on a wholesale level and eventually will be making them their way down on a retail level, it's better than them continuing to go up. I mean, this is the first major bit of good news for consumers that, moving forward, we should be able to see more flexibility in being able to negotiate the price of these vehicles, especially with the continued softening of the market, perhaps. And so, because of that, this isn't the opportunity is starting to present itself for people to be able to save some money and not have to pay so much for these cars that have been so overpriced for the last 18 to 24 months. So this is a good sign. It's not. Damn, you don't want it to crash overnight. You don't want it to go from the high point that it's at to an unsustainable low point overnight. That wouldn't bode well for anybody. But the fact that it's starting to move in a downward direction is a positive sign. And as consumers, we need to look at it that way.
Definitely. All right, let me pull this up on the screen, Dad. Truck and SUV prices. We can see, Dad, that all types of vehicles, including full-size vans, have actually declined. And I forgot to bring this up yesterday and really beat the drum. Full-size van prices declined 0.3 of a point week over week. Dad, last week when full-size vans depreciated, it was the first time in 77 weeks. 77. If only we had gotten to 777s, that would have been really incredible. 77 weeks of wholesale appreciation for full-size vans, now 2 weeks in a row of vans declining in price. The bigger storyline may be subcompact luxury crossovers losing nearly 2% of their value week over week at the wholesale auctions. Full-size luxury crossovers down 1.7%. The declines across all segments of vehicles here was also incredibly significant. To your same comments about cars, it is a good sign if you've been waiting on the sidelines to buy a used vehicle. And we are seeing, again, the flexibility on the retail side. This is the benefit of the community. We see it every single day talking to our team, talking to Phil and Mario and Justice and Kimberly and Ashley, right? We learn from them and what they're chatting about with the YA community. This is what we see from the community forum as well. Not only are wholesale prices going down, retail prices are too, if you know how to negotiate.
And if I may, on the full-size luxury SUVs, the last 3 weeks, if you add up the cumulative amount of money that they've dropped, okay, it's somewhere around $2,600 to $2,700 that those vehicles have gone down in value in 3 weeks. Imagine the retail asking prices going down $3,000 on some of those vehicles moving forward. That's a significant difference, and we have to realize that.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, kudos to us. Like, people give us a hard time, like, oh, you guys make so much content. Do things really change? Yes, things change. Things change very frequently, and we're here to keep a pulse on it. And Dad, I even want to pull up. This is from LinkedIn. Okay, a guy named Ryan Law. I'm not even connected to him, right? But I found this in a newsletter, and I thought I'd share it with everyone here. This is from 2 weeks ago. Shell shocked. Ford lane at Manheim, Detroit today ran 169 cars, had 126 no sales. I've never seen that happen before, and there wasn't one rental car company bidding either. I guess you could say that the market has taken a turn downward, and it's fascinating to read the comments here of other people who are in the wholesale used car business. Okay, so please, like, we represent the consumer voice here, but here's some insights. And here's how
Mhm.
people in the industry think about it. Update today: Ford Lane at Manheim, Detroit open sale, 179 runs, 81 no sales. These are incredibly high no sale rates, and this
Yes.
starts to explain why here in a second. Let me load a few more comments. You have dealers. This comes from Drew Ellington at a Chevrolet dealer. You have dealers looking to shed water with reserves based on 90-day units with lots of recon. The market will correct and move on. Pops, what does this mean here? Does this mean that, I don't know, maybe dealers are finally looking to move on from vehicles, but they're trying to get what it was worth 90 days ago at the auction, and now they're not able to? See,
And they
high
know they
reserves.
and they know they can't, and the smart dealers will just take their loss and put their tail between their legs, um, or go buy other vehicles at a lower price point, so that they can make some of that money back. The dealers that really don't understand inventory control will say, "I'm not going to sell that at a loss. I'm going to hold on to it because I paid too much for it, and I'm going to find that one person in America who's willing to pay me even more than what I paid." And you can't do that. I mean, the carrying cost of doing that, the fact that it's sitting on a piece of real estate, and you're not turning that product on that piece of real estate, it's just costing you a ton of money. The smart dealers know how to take their losses and move on.
Look at these comments, Dad. CarMax buyer, this is from a gentleman named Ryan who works at a Jeep dealership. CarMax buyer told me it's the worst month they have ever had. And Ryan saying, haven't seen them on the lanes in a few weeks. They typically have people there. Let's see. Well, dismal numbers. How many runs before they lower the reserves? 2 weeks. I've been seeing a lot of ifs. I've passed on some bumps on my top offers too. The roller coaster ride continues. Awfully quiet, dare I say spooky out there. This is from a territory manager over at ACV Auctions. Don't worry, they'll start adjusting those floors soon. Deals to be had. Welcome to 2008 all over again. The market is turned, right? Like, please, folks, if you're out there and you're like, I think Ray and Zach are just doing this for the clickbait to get clicks. No, like, the tide has changed. The story is different now. It really, really is. There it is, directly from LinkedIn, from people having conversations about it. It's a pretty interesting time. And yeah, Intelligent Car Buying's right. The longer they wait, the larger the haircut. We're going to see prices continue to go down because consumer demand it's, again, this is, I know I went with Repo-calypse or whatever today, but this is, I think, solely a result of consumer demand starting to take a hit.
Definitely, there's a softening in the market, and one of the reasons there's a softening is because so many of these used cars were unaffordable before interest rates started going up. They're even more unaffordable to more people with interest rates going up. So this is forcing more people out of the market, and the more people that you have out of the market, the fewer people you suddenly have to sell to. The demand isn't quite as great. They have to make adjustments. The market is changing. I don't know if anybody's noticed. I don't dabble in the stock market, but the stock market goes up and down every day. It's a daily market. And so to think for a moment that some of those same criteria don't apply to wholesale used car values, that's being short-sighted. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a small decline, but it's a decline. Okay, and it's been a decline for 7 weeks in a row, and the rate of the decline is increasing rapidly. Um, so yes, those are things that you need to look at so that you can make an intelligent decision, trying to predict what the future pricing is going to be for things.
Yep. Let's go to the chat here for a quick minute, Pops. And then there's a couple other stories we need to pull up today. This was earlier in the show from Tellen. AutoNation near me advertises MSRP minus incentive. Not everyone qualifies. Then they hide a total of $1,048 in dealer fees in the disclaimer at the very bottom. Not even a public company follows the law. Can't be too surprised about that. Poo 2 suggests that you buy a Toyota EV and drive it till the wheels fall off. I think that's a little too
Uh,
soon for that
well,
comment, but
what's that one Toyota EV that just recently came out
no, Dad,
that the
that's the
wheels
joke. He's
literally are falling off, and
that's
and
that's the joke.
Toyota is agreeing to buy back the vehicles. So yeah, in that case, you might not have to drive it all that long.
That was the anyway.
Oh,
All
okay.
right, you got it. And I should mention we are doing a lot of coverage of the revised EV tax incentives over on the YAA Electric channel. Justin is doing a fantastic job with that. So if you're curious about what all the revised EV tax credits mean, just search EV tax credits YAA and our videos should pop up. JJO Mint MNT wants to know, how long do you guys think the downtrend is going to keep going down for? And this is a super interesting question, Dad, because you've got to imagine that if used car prices go down, and we're about to talk about it here in a second, new car prices continue to go up. Doesn't that mean used car demand will go up? And then wouldn't that stabilize prices, and prices could potentially go back up? So I think this is a great question. Let's discuss it. How long do we think used car prices are actually going to go down? And this also touches on Learning Fast question. So is now the time to sell, or should I be waiting? Should I have sold it last week? What's your thoughts, Dad? Where do you think this
Well,
lands?
you probably should have sold it 3 weeks ago. Um, because the offers are only going to go down. How long will this last? I don't know. There's still new car shortages. There's information that we saw today where Ford and Mazda are raising some of their prices. So new car prices are going to continue to go up. But as long as demand softens, as long as there's not as many people in the market to buy vehicles, I would think that that's going to put pressure on dealers to reduce the asking prices of their used car inventory. How long will that go on? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a couple months. Um, there has to be some historic semblance of normal, and we haven't seen that in a while. Cars, up until the last 18 months, cars have always been a depreciating asset, not an appreciating one.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, they should depreciate. They always have. And so I think we need to get closer to what historical standards would have been, as opposed to what these artificial standards have been because of the new car shortage. Um, and the cost of buying a car keeps going up for people just simply because most people are going to finance, and the cost of financing is going up.
We've talked about it a bit in the past on this show, Dad. The way that I think about it is like, what are the likelihoods of different scenarios actually playing out? And so I think the greatest likelihood scenario here is that we see an influx in repossessed vehicles over the next, I'll call it 60 to 90 days. And as a
Mhm.
result of that influx of repossessed vehicles, you're going to see a consummate increase in supply that offsets the increase in demand and continues to drive used car prices down. And I think you have enough buyers taking themselves out of the market for new vehicles and used vehicles altogether that my base case here is that at least for 2022, so for the next, I'll call it 5 months, used car prices will continue to go down. Will they go down a point a week on the wholesale market? No, that's not sustainable. Will this last for a couple more weeks? Probably. And then will things even out with like quarter of a point declines week over week? That's my expectation. I think that's the highest likelihood outcome. The other outcomes would be there's this rapid drop in used car prices, and like we've seen in the past, then a really rapid increase in used car prices. I don't think, I'd say it's almost like an 80-20 chance. You have a 20% chance of what I just described there, an 80% chance of the repos come online, consumer demand increases, but there's enough supply to offset the demand. And Igor's reminding us here, going to get reports out from banks sooner than later with updated data from July. I want to start to look into those numbers because that'll inform how we can all think about this market.
Yeah, I concur with a lot of what you said. I think your former uh, supposition is a much greater likelihood than the latter.
Yep, I completely agree. You're gonna see an increase in used car supply, and quite frankly, Dad, let's talk about this. Let's talk about new car prices and how they are just no. I mean, we've said it for a long time. not only are new car prices not attainable, but the future for new car prices gets less and less attainable. Ford, Dad, they just hiked the MSRP of their F-150 Lightning up by as much as 17% on the entry level model. This is now a theme, Dad. We've seen it with automakers in the past. Tesla, for example, starting with a very reasonable sub $40,000 price point, only to jack the price up to nearly $50,000 to get in the door. I fundamentally don't understand how this country is going to move to EVs as quickly as everyone has proclaimed we are going to do it, when no one can afford cars at these price points. Average transaction price for a Ford last month was $52,000.
And nobody can the alleged entry level EVs that are supposed to start under $40,000 are no longer starting anywhere near $40,000. If you can't figure out how to make an EV, and one of the reasons that Ford is raising the prices is because the Mustang Mach E, they lose money building those vehicles because the cost of raw materials has gone up so much that they're not making money when they build them and wholesale them to their dealer body. So if you can't make money when you've produced something at the price point you want to be at, well, guess what? You're no longer going to be at that price point. You are going to adjust your price point to a number where you can make money. Well, if that number suddenly becomes north of $50,000, it takes the vast majority of people who you might like to have buy an EV out of the market. It just does. That's not an affordable price point. So I agree with you. I don't see how the EV revolution is going to be like a bullet taken. It's not. It the price points are too damn high.
We put this blog post out December of last year, and kudos to Justin on our team for doing it. OEM investments in EVs and the roadmap to electrification. I think last time we updated this, Dad, I mean, pretty much every single OEM says by 2030. Yeah. So here's Nissan. Ambition 2030, we're going to spend $17.6 billion so that we have all EVs by 2030. Ford wants EVs. We've got GM with their EVs. GM plans to stop selling combustion vehicles by 2035. Now, forgive me for a moment here, folks, but
there's not a big enough bull to make that much poop.
There's no way. There's no way. And then did you see the tax credits? Now we're going to go on a little rant. Did you see the tax credits? That is fantastic. The US government is allowing now a used EV tax incentive. Do you know what the price cap is on that used EV tax incentive? And this is for 10 years, for a 10-year period of time. Do you know what the cap is for price?
No, what is it?
Take a guess. What do you think?
$40,000.
$25,000, Dad. What EV is going to sell for sub $25,000 as it's so stupid, man. It's so stupid. The prices of these cars are becoming they're becoming elitist, honestly. Like, I wish there was a different way to say it, but they're becoming elitist. And then everyone says, well, we're getting rid of ICE vehicles by 2030, by 2035. No way, Jose. This is wild.
Yeah, I think everybody, it's going to sound strange, but everybody's kind of put the cart before the horse when it comes to EVs. Yes, there will be more and more EVs. Yes, there are more and more EV manufacturers on the horizon. No, most of them don't seem to be able to build any cars in any quantity. Rivian, Lucid. I mean, there's any number of players out there that just don't, they produce PR blurbs, but they don't produce any vehicles, at least not in numbers that are sustainable to grow a company and have it be a company that's going to be around for 100 years. So, yeah, I think everybody was thinking that this is going to be like a racehorse, and it's more like a broken down mule. It ain't going anywhere that fast.
This comment here, I think, is spot on. This is essentially what I'm trying to hit. People
Yeah.
with incomes under $60,000 will have a hard time buying any new car.
Correct.
Yes, unequivocally, yes, and that's a sad proposition because it's this what's adage, I guess. It's like own nothing and be happy. I mean, that's truly what we're going towards in terms of mobility, which I don't know. I don't necessarily want to dig into it all right now. It's just not a good sign. When in reality, there are great options out there. Go look at hybrid vehicles. That's a great option for the consumer.
Inline rollerblades.
Inline rollerblades. Go take a peek at those.
Yeah, could be the future. Everybody would be in much better shape. We'd be a more fit society. And we wouldn't be putting any pressure on the electric grid at that point.
We'll be talking more about electric cars over on the YAA electric channel, so go enjoy that there. Dad, let's switch gears. Let's talk a little bit about our friends over at Vroom. We actually know no one at Vroom, unfortunately, but they are following in the footsteps of their big brother Carvana. Carvana earlier this year, how many people did they lay off? Like 3,500?
I think it was 2,500, 11% of their workforce, and then they're going to be laying off more people because, well, they lost nearly $500 million last quarter.
Vroom doesn't want to be one-upped. They're laying off, unfortunately, and it's sad when we hear layoff stories like these, but they're laying off 337 positions. Hopefully all those folks can go get gainfully employed somewhere else, Dad. And Vroom, this is pretty staggering. Vroom on Monday reported a second quarter loss of $115.1 million, which was less than their $310 million loss in the first quarter, but larger than last year's $65.8 million loss. Where things get scary, Dad, is revenue was down 38% to $475 million. So they sold 9,000 cars and lost $115 million.
Somebody please explain to me how that's sustainable.
What, like, can someone in the chat help me with the math? I mean, they lose how much per car? That's insane.
Yeah, but their profit per car actually went up on a per vehicle basis. It's just that profit is not big enough to compensate for the amount of expense they have in order to bring customers in to sell those cars.
Sure. Profit per vehicle was up. Then when you factor in all of your other expenses, your net income is way down. So your profit per vehicle is actually crapola. So from an accounting standpoint, sure, we can make it look good. That is the equivalent, Dad, of when we were growing up and Mom would ask me, I don't know, to empty the dishwasher, right?
Yeah.
Easy task. Emptying the dishwasher. That would be like if I emptied the dishwasher, but I didn't dry anything out before I put it in all the shelves and I just put all the wet crap in the shelves. Yeah, profit per vehicle is up.
Yeah.
But it's going to get moldy because we didn't actually make any. I mean, come on now, man. This is ridiculous. To me, it's a bit of an indication that not all of these national online used car dealers are going to make it out of this world.
Well, look at it this way. Vroom has lost a little over $400 million in the first 6 months of the year.
Yep.
Carvana has lost just under $1 billion in the first 6 months of the year. These are online digital retailers that are losing money at a rate that is not sustainable for businesses that, I don't know, hope to be around in the 5 or 10 years. How could that possibly work? I mean, there's what, 1.3 billion, 1.35 billion of money lost by these two digital retailers of automobiles. That's a staggering amount of money. If I was an investor in one of those companies, I think I'd be saying to myself, I might have made a mistake. Time to take my loss and move on before it goes down to zero.
Yep. I'm right there with you, Dad. I think especially because if you think about it, wholesale used car prices are starting to decline as well. The inventory that these companies have bought from consumers at inflated prices, they are 60 to 90 days away from potentially having auto loan delinquencies of their own. Like if you're a
Yes.
corporation, you're going to be looking at your portfolio of inventory that you have, and you're going to be like, why the hell did we pay 50 grand for this thing that now if we turn around to the auction, we could sell for 40? Like, what are they going to do? I think you're going to see a lot of write-offs here over the next few months. Wouldn't be surprised if you see some consolidation in the space as well, because I mean, standalone operations, when you're losing $115 million on 400 million, that's insane, man. That's like, as a business owner myself, as we are, you can't do that. Like, that is not sustainable. Very much not sustainable.
I think you call it runway.
And they're running out of it, man.
Yeah.
They're gonna need to do a go around, and they don't have enough fuel to do it. I want to pull this up here because I agree with Gary. I agree. Drying dishes is a bit of a waste of time, but I was raised in a household where you had to dry the dishes before you put them away. Very frustrating experience growing up. Dad, did you, when you emptied the dishwasher growing up, did you ever dry the dishes, or did you put them away wet and risk it with Mom?
What are you kidding? You think I was gonna take the wrath of Mom? No, I dried the damn dishes. Okay, ask me. Did I give up eating the hard pretzels for a while because just me crunching on them used to drive her crazy? I would go out in the patio to eat a hard pretzel. I couldn't eat it in front of your mother. Yeah, no, I learned.
Ah, man, you're funny, man. You're funny. Tom says, Pops, the US will be like Cuba soon. Everyone driving old vehicles. I think we're already on our way there, aren't we?
And smoking good cigars.
I hope so. Hope so. All right, Dad, let's call it a show for today. Thank you for everyone being here with us. If you are unfamiliar with what we do on our website back over at joinyaa.com, please go familiarize yourself. If you're going to buy a car, let us help you out there. If you're going to sell a car, let us get all the offers from all the different iBuy websites like Carvana and Vroom, like we've been talking about, in one place. You're going to get auto insurance. Get your quote through YAA. We've partnered up with all the different carriers to get preferred rates for our members. If you're going to buy an extended warranty, get a quote from us as well. And if you want to finance or refinance a vehicle, I have had a lot of phone calls over the past 2 weeks with credit unions. We are bringing credit unions to the YAA community so that you can finance and refinance your auto loans directly to a credit union that we have vetted and partnered with. So stay tuned for all of that and more. If you haven't checked it out, go to joinyaa.com and take a peek.
And otherwise, come visit us again tomorrow at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific for more news that you can use from YAA.
Yeah, see, everyone's saying the dishwasher dry. So the dishwasher that Laura and I have, it dries, but it's just wet as can be, man. It's just super wet. If anyone has dishwasher recommendations, just Instagram DM me or something. Like, tell me, I'm all ears.
Well, make sure you have it on the heated dry setting.
It doesn't matter, man. It still comes out, wet.
Well, maybe you just have a bad dishwasher.
My DMs are open. Send me
Okay.
send me dishwasher recommendations. I love you, Dad. I'll see you tomorrow.
I love you too, handsome. Have a good one.
See ya.